Let us go ahead and set up an actual Node.js lab in this one. So far we have just done expect.fail and expect.pass, like just a regular thing with a couple of challenges. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and I'm going to add something which is more of a real world. So I'm going to say on calling hello from index.js should give me the string as world. And the hint could be for this, did you implement the hello method correctly? Similarly, this could be hello again and this could be world again, right? And we can say hello again method correctly, right? So I can save this. So what I'm expecting essentially from this particular user in this case is, let's say if I go to lab details, I can create two methods. The first one is, let's say hello, calling this should give me world as a text, and then hello again, calling this should give me world again as a text, right? Both of these methods should be present inside index.js and should be exported using, let's say, ES6 module system. Simple as that. You save this and that's it. Now, if we, let's say, go ahead and take a look at this particular lab, you're going to see this contains now two test blocks. On calling hello from index.js should give me the string world, and similarly over here. Now what we can do is right here, try solving this. So I'm going to say export function hello. I'm going to return world, and export function hello again. I'm going to return world again. Right? So this is the correct code, but obviously if you run this will not work according to how we want it to work. Why? Because our test file is wrong, right? So the next thing which we have to do is fix up our test file. This particular file which gets executed and needs to check the user code, right? And again, this is getting passed because our test file is corrupted. So let's just go ahead and do some testing over here. Now we know that this index.js file is present, always present inside home dammer code directory, because that is what we said, right? So what I can do is I can say const module is await import home dammer code index.js, or just index, right? The reason for doing this, instead of doing import, hello and hello again from this particular path, the reason I do not prefer you to do this is because let's assume in case the user did not create this file or deleted this file or did not create these methods, then your test code itself would break, right? So both the challenges would break. Even if, let's say, hello is working fine, hello again is not implemented or it's not available at all, this would fail because it will not be able to find the import. So what you have to be careful about when setting up these labs is try to have as much imports and data within the local scope, which is like the user brought import data and import code, and rest of the things can go in global scope. So I'm going to get rid of this import and we're going to import it dynamically so that the code does not crash if, let's say, the method or if, let's say, the file is not present. Only this particular block will crash, right? Which will mark the challenge as failed. So what I can do now is I can say mod.hello is, something which I will call. I'm going to say expect mod.hello to be, let's say, world, right? This is what our challenge is exactly, right? Similarly, for challenge 2, I import this again and I can say hello again should be world again, right? So if I click on save right here, file gets updated. And now clicking on run test, you're going to see that it starts evaluating again and both of them now turn green. This test result logs is the direct std out logs, which we show the users as well. And for you as well, if you want to debug this somehow, you can use these test result logs to see if anything is broken or not. Now let's try to see if this function fails. If, let's say, I have wrong text, clicking on run, you're going to see that this test over here, the second one, will now fail and not using the correct return value, not the method. So another thing which we can do over here, just to make you understand this even better, is try to convert this into a raw thing without using vtest, right? So what I can do in that particular case is I can go back to my evaluation tab and I can remove all of this and switch to node test file name, right? Now this particular block would run this particular script directly, right? So what we can do now is we can say async function run, and then inside this we'll do all of this testing. Now remember that because we are not using vtest, we don't have access to this describe and test things. So we have to do everything manually. I'm going to have const results as an empty array. I'm gonna require some modules right here. I'm gonna say that this gets replaced with try catch blocks, because again, we want, if the test fails, it does not crash the whole script. We can say results.push false if it is an error, otherwise results.push true. We can also import assert from Node.js, which will just crash it. So what we can say is, we can say assert.equal mod.hello should be world. Again, this depends on the syntax. You can also use some other library here if you want. And then we say results.push true. Otherwise, result.push false if this code crashes. Similarly, over here, we're going to call hello again, and we're going to have world again. Right? That's it. So now this raw bare bones code has a results array which is now ready to be written. So all we have to do now is say fs.write file sync process.env, and now you know that we have to write it on an environment variable. And for knowing the environment variables, what I'm going to do is go back to my documentation page. I'm going to go to the environment variables, and you can see unit test output file is the environment variable which we have to write, right? So I'm going to go back to my test file env, and I'm going to json.stringify this results boolean array. And that's it. That will be the end of this particular script. We're going to run this. We're going to, just have a run this. And then that is all we need to do in order to convert this into a simple lab as well without vtest. So if I save this lab now, and if I click on, let's say, this run code button again, you're going to see this lab now runs much faster, right? Because it's avoiding the vtest overhead. And that is something which I would recommend you to do if you can, that use bare bones implementation. That makes it run a little bit faster. But you see that we are not able to understand what is going on with this particular lab, right? So let me just also show you how to debug this real quick. So because I mentioned you that this test results log is an stdout and stdr stream from this testing itself directly, what you can do is you can put console logs over here while you're debugging the lab, right? So I'm going to save it with console log of error. And if I go ahead and try to run this again, you're going to see that it says me cannot find module home dammer code index. So it says me, did you mean to import home dammer code index.js? So that means that this requires, in case of a regular Node.js script, it requires me to specify an index.js extension, and that is fair. Now if I run this, so you can see in this case it's complaining me, the Node.js is complaining me that you cannot use export inside index.js itself because it is not a module, right? Otherwise you have to use a type of module inside your package.json. So that is fair. I mean, but this is something which you will change in your default code, right? Because by default you did specify the user to write inside index.js. So for now, because we are using Node 14, what we can do is we can just change this to MJS. We can make this change inside of a default testing code base, the default GitHub repo as well, that you have to write your code inside index.mjs. And over here, we can just import index.mjs file instead now. So once we do this, once we make the change, click on run test button again, you're going to see now this starts working again, right? World again is not working because the return value is wrong. So if I click on run test again, you can see both of them pass. So this is how you debug your testing scripts using console and checking the test result logs, and every sort of error which you see will be visible inside this test result logs. So that is all for this video. I hope you learned something amazing, something important in this one as well. These videos are super important. I'm using Node.js or JavaScript for now, but these learnings, these equivalent learnings can be transferred into Python or any sort of programming language.